Stop, Lithos. What you're doing here is a suicide mission.
If so be it. Our people will no longer stand for mistreatment.
This is unnecessary. The king does not know of this intrusion. I can still sweep it under the rug, if only you cease this.
Why would you do that for us?
Because I agree with your general perspective. The Lithos deserve better, but they won't get it with violence.
Enough. Do you want to be our first victim, or will you lead us to your father? Not so fast, Viltrox. It seems we have an ally. Gorlax, you fool! He speaks honeyed words so that we may spare the king's life.
You'll be sparing more lives than that, if only you'll just listen.
Enough of this! No, brother, I beg of you, please listen.
You there! Golex, was it?
Correct.
Golex, if you will serve me, we can win reforms for my father.
If he will serve you, go on.
Be part of my entourage, and I will guarantee your people's safety.
Our safety is not enough.
Nor does it have to be in time.
Gorax, what are you doing? How can we possibly believe this man? He could have ambushed us with soldiers. He came alone, at risk to his own life. What can he possibly do to help us? We shall see, brother. Please, leave this place. I will make the sacrifice. I will be in your service, Prince Cassus.
Excellent. Where shall we begin?
Moran doesn't leave. We will have to force the Elder's hands and take the Prince's well. But the Prince's ship! It's a new generation ship! It should be enough to wipe out our entire group, even at low power. They won't do anything if we have Cassus. Lure him to me. I've had enough of this waiting. We'll throw in a lot with the Penguin Union. But can't we trust the Penguin Union? Nobody says we have to trust them entirely. I doubt they trust us either. But we'll ensure their interference by making it too tempting not to. Alright, I'll bring the Prince to you. And if Golex gets in the way, we kill him.
Truth here, and it's time for more Otaku Evolution. Be sure to like, subscribe, and contribute to my Patreon. This video is on Samurai Champloo, but I want to talk about Cowboy Bebop again first. If you've been watching my videos, you should know by now that Cowboy Bebop is my favorite anime of all time. I consider it peak fiction in a lot of ways. It has just the right amount of everything a television series needs to be considered a classic, from fantastic production values to living, breathing environments and memorable character arcs. It does approach these things a little unconventionally, though, mostly episodic adventures that nevertheless each reveal a new piece of the puzzle that is the world of the show, but in the end, it all balances out wonderfully. My favorite video of mine so far is my review of the show. Cowboy Bebop was a success for several reasons, but not the least of which was the commitment and creativity of its director, Shinichiro Watanabe, who had already by then directed, along with Shoji Kawamori, Macross Plus, which is in American theaters in December thanks to Fathom Events. Watanabe conceived of the general concept of Cowboy Bebop and its recurring storyline featuring Spike vs. Vicious, and he was given free rein by Bandai Visual to make a series that wouldn't just appeal to adolescents, but also adults. A common misconception in the American Cowboy Bebop fandom is that it wasn't at all popular in Japan, but actually it was relatively popular. Maybe not as popular as it is in the West, sure, but popular enough to win science fiction awards and garner enough attention for a movie to be made. With how amazing Cowboy Bebop was, is, how is it that Watanabe can possibly surpass it? Well, who says he has to? I don't think he's been desperately chasing the shadow of his previous work in everything he does, even if there are stylistic and thematic references. All an anime director has to keep doing is making good anime, and for the most part, Watanabe has. That said, there is a striking similarity to Bebop and Champloo, in that it takes a genre of fiction, in this case samurai period pieces, and mixes it with a music genre, in this case hip-hop. Even the name Samurai Champloo, referencing an Okinawan dish, essentially makes the title Samurai Blend or Samurai Remix to be more in tune with the music references. There's even a similarity in that the show follows a small group of misfits from different backgrounds who are all like a dysfunctional family in some ways. And, like Bebop, there's a recurring plotline about Fu's search for the Sunflower Samurai. But let's get more into the show itself. What is Samurai Champloo about? Well, it takes place in the Tokugawa or Edo period, when the military government or shogunate were unchallenged rulers. The main characters in the series are a traveling trio: the wild self-taught swordsman Mugen, the disciplined ronin Jin, and the spirited young woman Fu who looks for a figure from her past. Along their journey, they run into all sorts of trouble, are involved in and initiate all kinds of situations, most of which leave them no better off than before. Their luck is either very good or very bad, depending on your perspective. But the Edo period of the TV series is laced with modern references and anachronisms that vibe with the largely hip-hop soundtrack. It's why you'll see things like beatboxing in the show. An emphasis was placed on inclusion and diversity in the characters and attitudes of the show, despite it taking place in a very isolationist and conformist time period. Though there is one aspect of that is quite fitting to the time period, which I'll get to later. There's some real meat to chew on in Samurai Champloo, thematically. But screw that noise, let's take a look at a fight now. Like Cowboy Bebop before it, and Space Dandy after it, a common Watanabe theme is hunger and being destitute. Our trio of main characters often find themselves without any money, and thus without any means to feed themselves. They resort to taking odd jobs for money, or finding some unconventional means to feed themselves, like an eating contest. We also see other characters struggle with keeping things together due to lack of funds. But more than just the needs of the body, there's a kind of hunger that can only be satiated with personal fulfillment that's at the core of the characters, especially Fu's desire to meet with a samurai that smells of sunflowers and settle up a past wrong.
Where are your parents, anyways?
My father hasn't been around for a long time, and my mother died a year ago. When she was alive, I used to disobey her all the time, make her worry about me all the time. All the things I really wanted to tell her, that I wanted to ask her, and now I'll never be able to.
Because both food and money can be hard to come by for our heroes, another common recurring element is gambling. Gambling must have been a major source of entertainment for the time period, given the lack of a lot of other things. But wherever there is gambling, there's always trouble for our trio, mostly involving organized crime. But hey, at least Mugen made a killing with beetle wrestling. Prostitution has always been a part of society, and in the Edo period it was likely no different. In Samurai Champloo, some of the episodes revolve around prostitution or specific prostitutes, something Mugen and Jin, but mostly Mugen, avail themselves of. One episode sees Jin desperate to protect a woman who had to become a prostitute to pay off her husband's debts. In another, Mugen ends up involved in a raid against a counterfeit money operation thanks to a ninja undercover as a prostitute. Again, this ties in with destitution, gambling, and organized crime in the world of the show.
I won't spend another second of life paying for your mistakes.
Huh?
I am taking back my life right here and now. That's what it costs to free the woman who used to be your wife.
Revenge is another recurring element of Samurai Champloo. In a way, you can count the entire journey Mugen, Jin, and Fu take to seek out the Sunflower Samurai as being out of a revenge of sorts, but there's other revenge besides. like the fellow students of the dojo Jin trained in seeking vengeance for his killing of their master, or Mugen looking to avenge himself on Mukuro and finding that the real person pulling the strings was somebody else, or the vengeance of the men who were injured in a pirate attack by Mugen years earlier. Vengeance always ends up an ugly affair with little catharsis. It's better to forgive or try to live a virtuous, successful life without holding things against others. This brings us to an element of the show that ties in with its various themes and relies somewhat on actual Japanese history. That is, the existence of an underground Christian movement in Japan. Mention is made of the Shimabara Rebellion of 1637 and Francis Xavier, who had previously evangelized in Japan. The objective of Fu's quest is the samurai who smells of sunflowers, a man who had a part in the stigmatized and indeed persecuted early Japanese Christian movement that led to the rebellion against the Tokugawa shogunate. The government of Japan wants badly to completely quash any movements they deem foreign influence, and set out to kill our heroes to tie up loose ends. The show makes no real judgment on the existence of the Christian movement, except to show the exploitation of some believers and the extreme prejudice the government has against it. But it is an interesting historical tidbit that helps enliven the endgame of the series.
What the hell's this thing?
It's a stepping picture. You step on it as a test, understand?
Nope.
Look, it's a test to find out if you're one of the underground Christians hiding in this area. So will you step in the damn thing already?
No way.
Huh? What did you say?
Sorry, dude, but I got a thing about being told what to do.
Samurai Champloo has all the action, humor, and drama that Cowboy Bebop has, and on top of which, a main story arc that is woven more into the structure of the series. So why isn't it as good or better than Bebop? Why don't I consider it as one of my favorites the way I consider Bebop? Look, I'm not trying to denigrate the show. It's pretty solid, all things considered, but it just doesn't feel as well constructed or as meaningful as Cowboy Bebop. It doesn't feel as groundbreaking or stylistically challenging, nor does it have Bebop's brilliant Yoko Kanno music or its variety of different premises. The world of Champloo at once feels more realistic, and yet not as unique or as big as Bebop's. The characters don't have quite the same charm. There isn't the same great chemistry. But what it does have, what I've explained it has, is good enough to make it noteworthy, even if it ultimately doesn't measure up to Bebop or some of the other greats. And it doesn't have to be, or measure up to Cowboy Bebop. It just has to do what it does well enough to entertain. And that it does.
You're out! Huh? Mugen makes a critical base running error and passes the runner in front of him. He's out!
Jeez.
Speaking of Bebop, by the way, the live-action Netflix series is set to premiere about the same time this video is made public. I don't really have any high hopes for it, but it could be an interesting experiment. Come to think of it, a live-action Samurai Champloo would make a lot more sense. After all, there was a great series of live-action Rurouni Kenshin movies. Next time on Otaku Evolution, I'd take a look at a good Loop on the Third feature. Until then, see ya!
What I don't get is why he thinks he needs another woman when he's got me around.
What, you saying you want to be his main squeeze?
That's not what I said.
You got the figure of a wood plank.
I do not. Clothing just makes me look slender.
Yeah, right.
It's the truth.
Well, show me what you got then.
Brace yourself, because it's an eyeful. I'm having second thoughts.
Status update, Catherine Melton. Meaning? Is that so? Well, things have accelerated faster than I expected. Tell him that Cassis is worthless as a hostage. If we're tied to this, it will destroy our relationship as well. If, on the other hand, Cassis and Moran were to, I don't know, remove each other from the equation, we can hardly be held responsible for that. I'm not suggesting anything, Captain. Don't get ahead of yourself. I'm going down right now to ensure that Cassis isn't harmed. I don't remember making any long-term commitment to them. Please, I'll have Terry with me. I think the two of us can handle this just fine. Terry, you aren't helping! Oh, was I supposed to fight? My bad. Hey, can we get another take?